What is really great in the world of bird drawing is that a lot of smaller birds share a similar frame, structure, and drawing process. And in a previous video that we have done on a sparrow, we'll find that the process is quite similar to that of a new bird that we'll be drawing today, and that is the western bluebird. Now, the western bluebird is a really beautiful bird with a unique color combination and serves as a great drawing exercise to explore color variation as well as how to work in finer details to make the bird a more realistic representation of the actual western bluebird. So with that being said, hey guys, my name is Matt. Welcome to another video by artandcontext.org, where we explore various different art related topics, and in today's tutorial we will be breaking down the process of another bird, and that is how to draw the western bluebird. Now with that being said, we will be using some simple drawing materials such as pencil, ballpoint pen, marker pens, colored pencils, specifically Derwent colored pencils. However, you can use this drawing process with whatever tools are available to you, but the idea is that we really want to work with tools that work well together, and in this case pen, pencil, and some colored pencils is a great way to create a very beautiful and unique representation of the western bluebird. So the way in which we start this process is by sketching the bird very lightly. So the idea is that we want to basically establish the form of the bird structure in its basic fundamental shapes. So this means we can draw a circle for the head and a larger circle for the body to help establish the placement of the bird's main features. Again, this general shape is how you kind of establish all smaller bird species, or at least most of them, but otherwise we want to first lightly erase the basic shapes so that we can sketch the details of the bird without getting confused. And basically we use those larger shapes or the ghost lines after shading them to kind of assist us as we refine the bird. From here we will want to start refining the bluebird outline by sketching the features into the established space. As we continue with the bluebird sketch, we want to start refining the form of the bluebird's outline. So we can also start drawing in the beak of the bluebird, which is quite short and spear-headed, and it is located in the middle of the head area. You can also look at some internet references. There are a lot of images kind of to just assist you in your drawing process, and that's just a good idea as a beginner to kind of get a sense of the actual scale of these different features. We can also draw the eye of the bird, which is quite circular and located right next to the beak, which is also a common feature for smaller bird species. The eye tends to be kind of on a horizontal plane located right next to the beak, and quite close in proximity. We can also start to refine the line work within the bluebird drawing that establishes the different segmentations that define the different features within the bird. Now, the longer feathers that are part of the wings do flow in a downward direction towards the back of the bird and creates almost a tail-like feature of the bird or on the bird. So take time working out the bluebird outline and sketch so that you have a clearly established set of different features of the bird that will then be colored in. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start integrating a base layer of coloring, where we start to establish the unique and iconic coloration of the bluebird. So we now want to start adding some light layers of color at first. So using a light blue pencil, let's start to begin with the head area by adding some light tones of blue in the head area. We want to consider the feathery texture of the bird, which means we want to incorporate color strategically. So the best way to incorporate color is to add them through the addition of lines, and lines are just a really good drawing technique and strategy to kind of maintain the quality or the texture of feathers as we integrate our drawing marks. So try to make sure that you have light and darker tones of blues also for layering colors. It is also important to spend time on the head area, as the head area of the bird has the finest details which require some attention, and this is where we really want to pay attention to how we integrate colors around the eyes and around the beak and all those very delicate features. We want to add light lines of blues and oranges within the different segments areas within the bluebird drawing. So again, we can look at references of the western bluebird from kind of an internet source to assist us in the drawing process. But as we work our way through the body of the bluebird, we want to work with warmer and lighter tones of orange, and this is kind of the unique coloration that is on the belly or the chest area of the bird. We also want to create both light and darker tones in the feathers to establish some textural differences and kind of emphasize that natural quality within the feathers. But as we proceed with the coloring into the wings area, we will want to make sure sure that the wings are layered with light blues first. Now again, this is why we want to look at reference images, because the Bluebird does have this unique coloration where the head is blue, the feathers are blue, but the chest or the belly area tends to be kind of like a white, gray, and very orange color. But we also want to work with a variety of different oranges to kind of create moments that are darker and lighter in those orange areas. So the idea is to not just make them darker with maybe like a black or a kind of graphite pencil, but you want to work with a tonal range between your oranges where you have lighter oranges and dark oranges. But otherwise, as we proceed and as we work our way through the body of the Bluebird, we also want to work with those warmer and lighter tones, working our way all the way down to the Bluebird. But as we proceed with the coloring into the wings area, we'll want to make sure that the wings are layered with light blues first. We want to use blue pencils to sketch the different segments within the wings. The layers within the wings create these different segments that look as if they are stacked on one another, which is a very unique way or feature in terms of how feathers are represented specifically on birds. So they tend to have this quality of layering in their feather structure in the wings, and that's particularly how they look when they are resting or sitting on the bird. So that's something to think about. We can also utilize various blues within the wings, as the Western Bluebird often has a combination of light and darker tones within its blue coloration. So it's not just a matter of light blue or single blue color, but you want to have various blue drawing tools to create textural and tonal difference. So depending on the pose that you're also drawing the bird in, we can also be strategic about how we represent shadows. So naturally, we also want to be conscious of which direction the light source is coming from, and that is going to have an effect on which areas are obviously darker and more illuminated. So shadows will always differ in color as well, depending on which areas of the body they might be affecting or kind of touching. So for instance, we can use darker blues to represent shadows within the blue areas of the bird, and darker oranges for shadows in the areas that are obviously orange. So try to consider how light would be present within the Bluebird drawing, and then coherently placing your shadows on the opposite side to that of the light source, but then using a darker color of the actual color that the bird is, as opposed to just using a darker medium or a black colored tool. But otherwise, once we have set the base colors and the foundational colors, we're going to move on to adding in some pen details, and this is where we can start to enhance the drawing and give it a little bit more vivid qualities, contrast, and three-dimensionality. So once we have established a base layer of color in our Bluebird drawing, we can now start adding in some pen details for contrast and refined lines. So starting near the head area, once again, let's start working on some pen work to emphasize different features in the Bluebird. So we can add small strokes of lines, for instance, to further emphasize the small feathery features in the Bluebird drawing. Using something like micron pens with really small tips is a really good idea to get those fine, delicate feather shapes. But we can kind of continue to make sure that the lines darken and lighten within the tonal ranges of color in the Bluebird drawing. So we can use our color to kind of help us understand where darker shadows should be placed, which we can integrate with some fine pen work. As we work within the face, specifically with the eye in particular, we can darken the middle pupil whilst leaving a little shape of negative space to suggest a highlight in the Bluebird's eye. So you do want to take your time on the eye, as it is a very delicate feature of the Bluebird drawing, and we want to maintain a quality of a highlight, which we'll do by keeping a negative space in the eye to represent the glassy surface of how light is kind of reflecting off the eye. When adding in pen details, the colors should kind of guide you in terms of how dark and light you apply these pen lines. So again, we also want to make sure that we use pen lines strategically, which means that we can thicken strokes of lines for darker areas and kind of add thinner strokes of lines for the lighter areas. With areas that are highly shadowed, we can also kind of use a larger density of number of lines in those areas to kind of give more shadowing or represent more shadowing. So we want to try to add lines strategically in that sense, where we have a less density of lines for highly illuminated areas and then a larger density of lines for highly shadowed areas. We can also use thinner lines once again for areas that are more exposed, as this will give them kind of detail but without overpowering the very fine colored areas and features. We'll also start to see that the more lines we add to the drawing, the more definition it will create within the bird drawing and more texture within the feathers. So as we come to the wings area of the Bluebird, we also want to make sure we are carefully using pen lines to emphasize the different segments within the wings. Now as we continue, we also want to use both our blue pencils and pens to work out the different segments within the wings, as well as the color combinations of light and darker blues. So do make sure you do use a reference to assist you in terms of understanding the coloration and the color pattern of the Western Bluebird. The segments within the wings are different in length as well, so with the upper feathers being shorter and the bottom feathers being slightly longer, and this makes the bottom feathers in the wings extend out from beneath the upper feathers in the upper section of the wings. So try to keep your pen lines quite light in this particular area when adding them to the drawing, trying to work with the flow of the colored pencil lines, particularly in the wings, so we don't overpower the beautiful coloration. You want to make sure that the lines are not just sporadic but flow with shape of different features and kind of emphasize the form of the different features within the Bluebird drawing. The feathers do have quite a uniform type of shape to them along the body and in the wings of the Bluebird, so this means we want to make sure that our lines flow in the same direction, keeping the uniform aesthetic and consistency within the feathers. It's important that you take your time with the pen lines. The idea is to really integrate them as much as you can, slowly building them up for shadowed areas and kind of keeping them lighter and thinner for the less shadowed or highly illuminated areas. And you will find that as you come to the underbelly area of the Bluebird drawing, you can increase the density of lines, as this part of the bird is quite highly shadowed or very less exposed to a light source. Now, as we proceed, we're going to move into adding in some contextualizing features. So once we have successfully drawn the main aspects of the bird, we can now focus on the feet and how it contextualizes the bird in an actual space. So using your pencil, we're going to sketch the feet of the bird. The feet consist of 4 claws or 4 digits, however you like to call them, where 3 extend toward the front or in a forward direction and 1 extends backwards from the leg. This allows the bird to kind of wrap its claws around a branch to help it position itself in various spaces and on various objects. So the feet are these kind of 4-digit structures with 3 extending forward and then a single one extending in a backward direction. We can also start to add in some pen work to give the bird's feet some definition and 3-dimensionality, but we can also darken the feet that are placed in the background to suggest that they are further away and that they are less exposed to a light source. We can also add a simple branch to define the surface that the bird is placed on. This is just further contextualizing the bird in the space and in the drawing. So we can then add some light shading on the branch directly beneath the bird to also suggest a shadow to emphasize that 3-dimensional quality. From here, we can use some brown pencils once again to add some color to the branch, as well as some pen shading to give the branch more definition and texture. But otherwise, once you have added in the contextualizing features, you can now start to work with both your pen and colored pencils to add in any necessary little touch-ups and bits that might be missing to your Bluebird drawing, and then from here you can just spend time enhancing the details. But otherwise, do remember to stop. And that is it, guys. A simple drawing process on how to create a really beautiful and realistic Bluebird drawing. If you did like this video and are interested in similar or related topics, please do let us know in the comment section below. But otherwise, some key concepts: take your time on the early shapes, establish the fundamental shapes, refine them into the details and the actual outline of the bird in a light sketch, then integrate your colors and then enhance the drawing with some pen details. But thanks again for tuning in. You can also show some love by liking and subscribing to the video. This helps us to grow the channel, which ultimately enables us to make more art related content for you guys, which we love to do, and we really want to explore more bird related drawings, nature related drawings, creature related drawings. So do let us know in the comment section below what you are interested in and we will get to it. But thanks again for tuning in. That is it from me today. Until next time, cheers.